Welcome to Baymore Stables Presents Chatter at the Bit. On the back of the hot gossip this week in the industry, I'm going to talk about, to me, a controversial subject: selling horses. There is nothing wrong with wanting to sell your horse. There's nothing wrong with buying a horse, putting some training in it, and selling a horse. There's nothing wrong with dealing horses if it's done properly. There are three things that you have to remember when you want to sell your horse: be honest, be accurate, and be transparent. Because your word is your bond. If your word's no good, you're no good. It's real simple. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the honesty part. Is be honest about your horse. Things you shouldn't be saying is, it's a rescue, or by no fault of their own, or, that's just a hook. That's a hook to get somebody in to say, oh, poor horse, I'll buy him. No, you don't want that. You want to say, I'm selling them, whether it be nice topics or I have too many, life changed. There's nothing wrong. You do not have to justify selling your horse. But be honest about the horse. Be honest about what he can and cannot do. Be honest about what you know. Your sale ad should be on what you know, not what you've been told, not what you've seen or heard, about what you know. The next one is accuracy. Be accurate. If the horse has no papers and you can't produce papers and you can't produce they're being processed, your horse is great. Call it a great. There's nothing wrong. There's a lot of great horses that are great. You can't make it a selling point if you can't prove it. If you can't prove it, it ain't true. And the next thing is transparency. When I sell horses, I am very quick to be honest about the horse. I am very quick to, if there's been a vet bill, it gets attached to the sales receipt. If they want my farrier contact, boom, done. There are no questions when buying a horse off me. Is it the right way? It's my way. Can it be done differently? Absolutely. But in light of our industry in the last 10 so years and the embellishments that have been happening, and it has killed the sales market. And it's a lot of these people that are flipping horses and buying them from the stockyards or whatever, and then taking them home, taking a brush to them, and then putting them up for sale with the tag rescue. You didn't rescue shit. You bought a horse and you flipped it. It's all about the money, which there's nothing wrong with that either if it's done properly. If you want to be a proper horse flipper, is you buy a horse cheap, buy 10 cheap, I don't care. But you take them home, you make sure that they get checked over, get their feet done, work with them for minimally 30 days so that you can be accurate. If you've bought a horse and 2 weeks later you're saying, I'm going to flip it, it's not about the horse. You're setting the horse up for failure, and I have an issue with that. But you want to be accurate, you want to be honest. So minimally, a horse flipper should have a horse for minimally 30 days. That way you get to know the horse, you get to, if it's not broke, you can see where it is at manners, you can put some work in so that you can be honest. The next thing is pictures. Oh my God. I look for horses, and I'm always on the hunt for a sale here or there, and I look at these pictures, and it's these silly photos of a horse with his head over the gate showing you his tongue, or it's sitting there and the horse has got a very bad angle. And I'm thinking, this is stupid. You want to take proper pictures. AQHA website has a awesome article in their website with how to take proper pictures. It goes in detail. It is wonderful. But if you're selling a horse, you got to promote the product. Having a horse you take a picture on face on does nothing for the confirmation. In fact, it hurts the confirmation. You want to do it properly. Because these silly photos are just that. Because the first question you're going to get at, do you have better photos? If somebody has to ask that question, then you didn't do it right. So take proper pictures. Even if you have to pay a friend to come out for $20 and take a couple nice confirmation, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be a confirmation photo. So and the next we're going to cover is registration papers. Well, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this. I don't care. If you don't have the papers in your hand, or you don't have confirmation that these papers are being processed, you have a great horse. If you come back and say, well, both parents were registered, well, if it wasn't important enough to register at the time, it's not important to mention it now. Hearsay has no place in a sales ad. You cannot write a sales ad with honesty if you're saying, well, I heard. I don't care. Prove it. I do this with my horses, is I did sell a weanling this year, and of course everybody knows AQHA's a bugger to deal with, I said I would pay for the transfer. I said I would pay for the papers. I have literally every step of the way. I have sent her, when they sent me the papers, I sent her a tracking number when I sent them to AQHA. I have stepped along. It's been almost probably 6 months trying to get the papers for this filly. But I have not ghosted her. I have said, I will do this. This is what I've done. This is what, I've followed up with every step. So there's no problem. We know we're going to get the papers eventually. But it's a matter of how you handle it that either makes you professional or makes you a dumbass. And that's one of the things that I have zero tolerance for, is if I'm looking at a horse, don't tell me it's registered if you can't prove it. It's a great horse. There's nothing wrong with a great horse. I've ridden tons of great horses over the years. And guess what? A horse is a horse. That's it. A horse is a horse. Some people like great horses. Some people, they just want registered. And that's fine. But you're not going to get into every market. So if you don't have them, and the other big thing that annoys the hell out of me is when somebody posts in an ad, can be registered, I just never got around to it. And we're looking at a 3 or 4-year-old horse. Really? So it wasn't important enough for you to do when it was $50, but now you want somebody else to pay you $4 or $5,000 plus another $600 to $1,000 to register the horse. It's like, that to me is being a crook. What you should be saying is, I never bothered to get this registered, but I will reflect the cost of that in the price. That's being honest. Life happens. Sometimes we don't get around to things, and that's okay. But to come back and want top dollar for a horse that they're going to have to pay another $600 to $1,000 to register, that just to me is just beyond stupid. If it wasn't important enough when it was a baby, it ain't important enough now. So you kind of sit there and go, okay, ads that are written, another pet peeve of mine, but I'm not going to go into it because I can go on a dribble rant, is when some people put in the ad, by no fault of their own, or this is a rescue. I usually scroll right by because it's not about the horse, it's about the ego. Of course, you're selling your horse. You want to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. It shouldn't have to be justified. But I have more of an issue with the people that are buying cheap horses and then flipping them with, they're a rescue. Now, I've had a couple of incidences, and it's kind of comical because you never hear me say, out of my barn, I don't have rescues. I got a nice herd. But about 10 years ago, when Gregor and I was just starting, he found this quarter horse stallion. And I kind of went, we were talking about getting into quarter horses, but I wasn't sure what to do. I was still doing research and stuff. So we went to look at this quarter horse. On the video, he looked fantastic. On the pictures, on the ad, he looked fantastic. Good confirmation pictures. It was awesome. Well, we get out there, and he's standing off by himself, and he's under a blanket, and I kind of went, a stallion off by himself? I said, I could tell that he was a little underweight. I mean, that happens. Now I was looking at this other mare and I kind of went, okay, she looks like she's in foal, and being a breeder, I kind of went, okay, that's unsettling. So I said, okay, I worked a deal for the two of them, the stud and the mare. So, and she said, okay, she goes, I'll deliver them. I said, fantastic. So a week later, she said she's on her way up. I said, great. And she unloads the mare first, and I kind of went, oh, okay. We had stalls ready, so I don't feed grain when a horse comes into my barn first. All they get is watered down hay and fresh water, because I want to know, I want to see certain things. So the mare comes off, and she's kind of, she's labored. You could tell that she was uncomfortable. And then she brings off the stud with no blanket on. And she goes, he's down a little bit in weight. And I looked at him, I went, a little bit? I said, no worries. In he comes. And that was our Stallion JL Bonanza. Now, we got him in the stall. She left, deal was done. And I went in to look at him, and this thing's literally skin and bones. He was so emaciated. He had sucked his nuts in. I thought I'd bought a gelding, and I was pissed. I went, oh, shit. But I said, Greg, we'll try. I don't know if we can save him, but we'll try. He says, I just want you to try. I said, okay. Every night for the first week, Greg would go into that horse's stall and hold his hay up in his lap so that JJ could eat. He was literally marking the water to see how much he was drinking. Every morning he'd come into the barn. Hi, JJ. And JJ in the back of the stall barely raised his head above his withers. And then about 3 weeks in, we had a couple tough calls the first couple weeks. And then about 3 weeks in, we had come into the barn. We were running late that morning. I don't know, who knows with me. Probably coffee run. And he opened the door. And before he could say, good morning, JJ, JJ's head was out of his door. His ears were up, and he was nickering to Greg. And I went, he's going to make it. And Greg was just, JJ, all the time we had him, was Greg's horse. And I said, I think we're going to be okay. So, and then it got a little dicier, because then we found out that the previous owner had registered him as a gelding when he was a stud. And it was just, he was worth every penny. Like, he was a great starter stallion. 16 hands, 1,400 pounds, sorrel, and a brain on him that knocked your socks off. And Greg brought him back from damn near death. But never once have you ever heard me say anything about his past, because that horse didn't live there anymore. Sadly, we had to put him down. It came to a point where it was a necessity. But we've kept his babies. There are some of his babies running around Ontario, and out here we've kept Ruby and Willow. And he was just a nice horse. But I gave him a shot on his terms. There was no, well, we did this and this and this. If somebody I was talking to and as a friend, I would share the photo with them. I don't make it common knowledge, because I don't want to hit that mark against him. So if you're going to say rescue, it's not about the horse. You're actually insulting the horse. And you're saying, well, I'm being honest. No, you're not, because he don't live there anymore. Then you're selling a horse to stroke your ego, and you want to pull the heartstrings of the people that don't know any better. And do you really want your horse to go to somebody who doesn't have a clue? That just leads to logic, in my opinion. So if you're going to take them from the kill pen or something, take them home, give them 6 months, bring them back up, and make sure you make them a horse. Let them sell on their merit, not yours. And people just don't seem to get that. And it's like, well, you have to, I don't have to do shit. If I bought them, I can sell them. It's real simple. I don't have to do whatever. Forever is not reality. There's nothing in the world forever. All you can do in the horse business is take the best care, best training you have when you have them, and wave to them when they're gone. There's nothing wrong with that. Then we have like videos. Videos are tough. I even struggle with this because I'm still learning what people want in a video. What I'm gathering and what I'm learning is, a nice video of a horse walk, trot, canter, which is reasonable. I actually paid somebody. I had a thoroughbred mare down here for sale, and oh, great mare! She was adorable, and everybody was wanting a video. So I actually paid somebody to come out and ride the mare. She'd never seen the mare, and she was out there riding. I thought it was okay. I was wrong, but learning curve. So we ended up selling the mare, and I said, she doesn't change. She is day in, day out. We did a PPE on her, which leads to the next point, and she is thriving in her new home. She was the perfect first horse for her owner, and we are so thankful that she took the time to come and see us. And, she is just doing wonderful, and that's the way it should be. So then we go to, you got two options here. You go to PPEs or vet conclusions. What I do, a PPE is a pre-purchase exam that you get the vet out, you go over with a fine-tooth comb. To be honest, that's a judgment call based on your experience. I don't need a PPE because if it's lame, I'll fix it. But even if you don't want a PPE, take somebody experienced. Take somebody, it may cost you $50. Take somebody who actually is a trainer, and don't listen to, oh, well, they're a little off here because of sore feet. No, that's just hearsay. It's like, okay, what have you done to get the feet looked at? Ask to see the vet bills. Ask to see who's their farrier so you can talk about it. Knowledge is your best defense in buying a horse, but it's also your best defense in selling one too. Because if you're going to make comments, they have to be valid. And valid comments shows integrity. If you have to say, well, I don't have to give you that. You're right, you don't. I don't have to buy your horse either. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You either sit there and say, okay, this is the problem with this horse. This is why I'm selling him. It's like, okay, carry on. But if you're going to say, oh, well, and I'll use a very vague example here. If you're going to say, well, I rescued it and I had expenses and this is why it's this much. My first response is, show me your expenses. Because I guarantee you they're not there. They're tacking on. And I love the statement, well, my time is worth something. You're right, it is. But I ain't paying for it. This was your choice to get into horses. So you figure that out. That should be incorporated into the price. And it never fails when I've called somebody out saying, because a couple times it's like, from registered parents. I go, do you have the papers? Well, no. Are the papers in your name? Well, no. Do you have a signed transfer? Well, no. Then you have a great horse. I don't care. You guys people have to get smarter when selling horses. If you want the big bucks, and finally the industry has taken a step up to where horses are getting fair market value, and that is wonderful. Everybody wants in on the big price tag, and I get that. But you have to do it right, because word of mouth will either kill you or make you. And if you sell a horse that you're not honest, accurate, or transparent with, they're going to go and tell all their friends. And better yet, it's going to end up on this Facebook crap. And there's some posts on Facebook where people are, it's an after the fact post. Well, if you were smart, the only way you get screwed is if you let yourself be screwed. It's not a matter of anybody's fault. If you allowed yourself to be screwed, it's on you. Why you feel the need to go and have 35 to 40 people who generally don't have horses sit there and go, oh, poor you, I'm so sorry this happened. My response, I want so bad to go in and say, straighten up. Like, you made a bad decision. Cough it up, fix it, get on with it. But they've made selling horses almost criminal. And it's one of those things where you can't please anybody, and you shouldn't have to. I don't sell a whole lot of horses by any stretch, and I mean, I've given a few away even. It depends on how things go. Like if somebody were to come to me and want to buy my horse, I'm going to judge them as a person. And even in my standardbreds, if I sell a horse that's a weanling, I make sure the registration's in place. I make sure everything's in place. That's my work. That's my job. And that's my responsibility. And I do really believe sellers have to take responsibility for what they're putting out there. It's ridiculous that you're using terms in your sales ad that is actually making you out to be a liar. And I'm not saying that in all cases. I did run into a girl who literally said, I don't have papers, but I'm trying to get them. And she turned around and she sent me the email she had sent to AQHA and everything. It was like, okay, then there's an effort there. Not promising effort, but it's still, you're not registered unless you have the papers. And if you're selling a horse and it's registered, the horse belongs with the papers belong with the horse. You as the owner do not have the right to keep those papers. I don't care who you are. They belong with the horse. I don't know where people got it in their heads that, well, if I own it, it's my choice to give it the papers. No, it's not. You're a cow. If your horse is registered, it goes with papers. It's simple as that. They belong with the horse. Anybody who is selling a horse and has the papers and refusing to give them is a crook. And if you don't like it, I don't care. If you don't have papers, sell it, great. Don't even say it's registered. But if you're withholding papers and you know that horse is registered, how dare you do that to the horse? You are, beyond a doubt, a crook. Because you're not hurting yourself. You're hurting the horse. And that, to me, is a big black mark. So it's kind of sit there and go, okay, well, I know, I don't care what you want to say. If you're holding back papers on a horse that you have sold knowing it was registered, you shouldn't own a goldfish. You're in my group 4. And we all know what group 4 is. But a lot of things can come for selling a horse. You can meet wonderful people. You can meet people that might not come out and buy a horse, but it doesn't hurt to sit and talk. Just because you got a horse for sale, if the people are coming out and saying, hey, I want to see your horse, it's just, I really can't afford. You don't turn them away. You make coffee. You chat. If you're proud of your product and if you are comfortable in who you are, the sale isn't the art of the deal. It's the connection. And people forget that. And that leads me to my last point. Coaches. Oh lordy. If you're going to look at a horse and your response is, I will show the video to my coach, I can assure you you're not buying the horse. Why? Because coaches seem to think that double dipping is appropriate. They will come back with, I have a friend who's got a horse for you, but let me tell you a secret. If you're paying a coach and they can't make the time to come out and see your horse, they're no coach. They don't care. They care about the money. And if you have to say, oh, well, I got to go talk to my coach, if it wasn't important enough when you made the appointment, trust me, that coach ain't letting you buy the horse. 99% of the time. Now, I did have a little while ago, I had a little APHA mare for sale. She was just a spicy little thing. I love her. And the girl came down and she was showed up with her son. And he's got these fancy cowboy boots on, and she come in and it's like, no, this is one. But yeah, I really like that one. Yeah, well, what else do you have for sale? I'm kind of looking at her saying, nothing. Well, it's like what I do is she went on to explain a whole big flipping process. I go, I don't care. Like, this is the one for sale. If you don't want it, well, we'll have to show the video to the coach. And I said, you have a coach? And she says, well, yes, of course, for my son, the ability, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. The kid couldn't have cared less about horses. And I said, well, thanks for coming out. Not a problem. Oh, well, we'll let you know. Yeah, I imagine you will. So, not more than a day later, she sent me an email. The coach looked at the video and the pictures and didn't think he was rightly suited for my son. I said, no problem. And then about 2 weeks later, I had a gelding for sale, and I was very picky. He was just a little shit, but he was adorable. And the girl comes out, and first words out of her mouth is, okay, I can see him, but I have to, take the video to my coach. I said, well, then don't bother going further. I go, because I can assure you, your coach is not going to like the video, and he or she will suddenly come up with, I know where there's a nice horse for you for sale. You don't think they're making a commission on that sale from their friend? They are. And she goes, no. She goes, it's my choice. I then should need a coach. It's, coaches should not be defining whether you buy a horse or not. Coaches are there to provide you support on the horse and honest evaluation of what you can and cannot afford. If your coach has sat down with you and said, hey, you're ready for a new horse, this is what you're looking for, their job's done. If they're saying, okay, you have the potential to go here, but you need a horse that is, got some age, not forward moving, more woe than go. That's what their job is. It's your job to decide whether to buy the horse. But if your coach is getting paid and they've given you that criteria to what you should be looking for, and they don't feel it important enough to come out and look at that horse with you as their client, if that doesn't make you question, then you might want to go to a new mart. Because you can take an experienced horse person or a trainer, and they might even know the person who has it and say, hey, not a bad horse, needs work, because as soon as you take that horse out of the place you're buying it from, there's going to be changes going to a new barn, because new barn, new horse. Because horses have to adapt. Horses have to reschedule their schedule. So there's going to be a transition where it might not be the horse you bought. It might be better, it might be worse. But you have to accommodate for that transition. And if you're paying a coach, then they should know that too. But I don't know how many times through years where it's been like, yeah, I came to look at your horse, but yeah, my coach said she found one for me. Here's a little highlight. You're paying your coach to coach you, and she's getting a commission on selling her friend's horses. That's what they call double dipping. Go figure. It was never about you. It's always about them. And there's less and less about the horse in this day and age than what there ever has. We need to get back to basics on selling horses and be honest, be transparent, and learn how to properly advertise your horse. It takes a little extra time, and everybody's on their cell phone. It takes a little extra time, but doing it right is either going to make you or break you in the industry. There's quite a few right now that are getting bad reputations. Not that they're bad people, because they've made bad ads. I don't know the details of what's going on right now, and I don't care to, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you can't remember what you told a buyer, then maybe you shouldn't have told them. It's, that's on selling horses. It's leading us into breeding and buying horses, but that's a whole other topic. Stay tuned.